Beena, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the Built in Ohio podcast. Really looking forward to this conversation, not just because there's incredible work happening in Oxford and you're doing it in some really important areas that are forward-thinking AI, quantum computing, but also because I'm a proud alum. And so I know we have a lot of Red Hawk listeners and a lot of proud Miami alums, but welcome and thanks so much for joining.
Well, thank you, Chris, for taking the time. And it's always lovely to chat with you.
I absolutely love it. But so quantum computing, AI, these are really forward-thinking things. These are frontier technologies, emerging technologies. When I was a student at Miami, I was certainly not taking classes and courses and talking with professors and researchers. I'm not smart enough to be a student of yours, but why the passion at Miami around these in particular, and some of these quantum ones, which is a new program, a new degree pathway, but why is it that something that not a lot of universities, not a lot of entities are thinking about or certainly making investments in, but what was the passion for Miami?
Yeah, so if you haven't heard, Preston Crawford and the whole team here is on its next strategic planning process. So, it's called Miami Thrive. And as a part of Miami Thrive, we did employ Bain Consulting as a group to come in and just take a look at us. But the philosophy, I think, that we have embraced is a future back kind of philosophy, right? What do our future students need? What are the skills they need to be successful 5, 10, 15, 20 years out? And so from that, we are working backwards, to see what should we offer right now so that we're getting ready for this future. And Chris, you are in the tech sector. So you've seen how rapidly things change. The change is enormous. So that was some of the impetus, I would say, for looking at some of these degrees. And of course, quantum has also an additional story to it.
Absolutely. And I'd love to dig into that, but I don't want to, at least on my end, I don't want to bypass the uniqueness of this. And again, the forward thinking of it for Miami, because, this first Bachelor of Science in quantum computing, it's the first in Ohio. It's the first in the nation focused on software development. So this isn't just, where we see a lot of schools, doing, the AI stuff right now, but this is truly, forward frontier thinking type work.
Correct.
And so, another unique thing, you mentioned some of the, consulting and technology experts that you worked on this with, but you've also been working directly with industry, and in particular, the Cleveland Clinic, where, we can get into that, and I'd love you to share. But again, I don't also want to sidestep the fact that Miami University, Southwestern Ohio, Oxford, Ohio, Butler County, it is a solid 4 hours from Cleveland, Ohio, where the Cleveland Clinic is. And I say that as a fantastic thing and a true statewide collaboration between two different parts of the state. One of, in my opinion, one of the best, if not the best education centers, but also, you think of the pillars of healthcare and all the innovation happening at the clinic, but incredibly unique and again, forward and frontier thinking. But could you talk a little bit about that Cleveland Clinic partnership that you've all built?
Definitely. So, the way this degree even was conceptualized, I would say it started 2 summers back. So summer of 2024. We were up in Cleveland for a visit because one of our lovely alums who was retiring from the Cleveland Clinic had invited the president to visit with the leadership. And from there, this conversation started. So I went up summer of 2024 along with the Preston. And that is when we got into this discussion. We have this quantum computer on site at the Cleveland Clinic. We are also doing lots of research in the tech space, especially as it relates to healthcare discoveries, healthcare delivery, and so on. But we are hurting a bit in terms of the workforce that is necessary for it, right? So that is where we started discussing this joint degree offering or developing a degree that would be beneficial for the Cleveland Clinic, but also for the other industry partners, right? So we got feedback from the clinic as we were developing this curriculum. And actually, we developed the curriculum in the fall of 2024. It had to go through all the university approval process. But at every step, I think we got feedback from them on what would be helpful for them. But we also thought about other sectors that this would impact. So we did a lot of background studies on what might be some of the other sectors that we could tie into this, right? And there is an application of quantum in finance. It's there in other healthcare fields. There's some in cybersecurity, also in AI. So the way the degree was developed was, we call it a quantum computing core that is applied to an application area.
And what does it look like for a student? Because you mentioned the Cleveland Clinic has this quantum computer, which again is a very rare thing. Not a lot of places have them, and for Ohio to have one, an Ohio institution like the clinic to have one, it's something incredibly special. And so for students to have access to this ecosystem from Miami to the Cleveland Clinic, it is quite unique and a fantastic opportunity for students. So what does that look like?
Yeah, so some of it is, of course, the access to the quantum computer. There are very few of them that are around, and we do have access to the quantum computer. So do some of our sister institutions in Ohio as well, right? But in addition, there's also this opportunity to do an internship at the Cleveland Clinic, right, around quantum computing. So this year there is a cohort of students that are going up, but they're not all in the quantum field either. Some are in supply chain, some are in finance, some are in other fields as well. So it is looking at how do we serve this particular industry partner, but it's also looking at, I would say, we are building up the workforce for all the different sectors that might use this technology. Right?
Yeah. Well, and I'm glad you mentioned the other sectors. So, briefly you've mentioned financial services.
Yeah.
Of course, that's something that the state of Ohio has incredible depth in, and some just important broadly, New York and Chicago.
Yes.
But as we think about Ohio financial services, insurance, things like the Department of War, defense applications with Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and things like NASA Glenn up in Cleveland. But your point on kind of that building that workforce of it goes beyond just a 4-year degree at Miami, but Miami is also, as I understand it, working in that K through 12 space even to, increase access, sort of awareness, and hopefully even build that pipeline to Oxford for students that want to at some point perhaps engage in this more deeply. And so how are you thinking about that of building kind of a total full access pipeline that can feed from K through 12 to higher ed like Miami to institutions, whether it's the clinic or some of the financial services or other healthcare institutions?
Yeah, definitely. We have to start early, and this is something that I'm incredibly passionate about. We were told that unless we get in front of middle school students, we might not be able to change the trajectory of their careers, in the future, right? But it is it's helping students be aware of these opportunities and also maintaining their interest in some of the fields that are critical so that they will be successful in this profession, right? So we, in fact, this summer, we do have some summer scholar programs on campus that are focused on that. One is called Beyond the Bits, Intro to Quantum Computing. It's actually being taught by one of our physics faculty who's in the quantum technology space. So it's a week-long summer workshop that we have for high school students. We also do K through 12 outreach at various other levels. So we have Allison Summers, who's here, who does a lot of programming for our neighboring schools. She's also working with teachers to see how to get in front of them so that they are aware that this degree is being offered, but also that this is a career track that's that is available to students. We also have other workshops, summer workshops, around cybersecurity. There's some around, robotics, etc., that we offer. So it's trying to keep students interested in some of these fields, because we do have a bit of a challenge, Chris, in trying to make sure young people stay interested in, especially the STEM heavy fields, right? The science, math. So we start very early. We also get our students to help us, our current students. So you will see lots of our college students engaging in these activities as well. We have, several coding workshops that we do with neighborhood schools, but also schools from the Cincinnati region, any region, in fact. We will be doing some workshops up in Cleveland also this summer.
Okay.
Yeah, so we are extending our reach, I would say, in this space. Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. And even, as again, someone that went to Miami, when I was on campus, the engineering school, it was, frankly, it was a bit rare to meet engineering students. And so it's a real kudos to you and President Crawford and university leadership to, have seen this opportunity, and we need this. And right now we're in this incredible, reindustrialization boom for America, and building things here. And of course, Ohio has such a rich legacy, and I had the opportunity recently to go to the advanced manufacturing hub that Miami University is leading, and just opened up in Hamilton, Ohio. And so I share that as it's incredibly impressive what is being built and what Miami is leading on, because it hasn't always been a leading engineering school, and that has changed very rapidly and very quickly in an incredibly impressive way. And so I guess my question though would be for current students or prospective students that are more juniors or seniors in high school, what were those keys to get so many to come into the engineering school, computer science majors, other majors like that have really been built out? And then again, it really is an incredible case study that I'm sure other schools are starting to study.
Yeah, I would say you were here, right, Chris? You know what Miami does well. We still embrace our liberal arts core, and we build the technical, I would say, the technical core on that foundation. So we have this liberal arts foundation on which we build a technical core. So our students, I always think, are rather special in that they are not they tend to be much more system thinkers. They can see the big picture in addition to knowing the design of the small elements that go into all our engineering designs, but they can also see the big picture. And if you talk to most of our students, you also see that they have lots of interests outside of engineering and computer science. So I think it's a good mix that we have here, and it is a unique mix. So you get that kind of a student body that comes. We are now close to around 1,900, 2,000 students in the college, right? And we see some areas especially seeing a strong growth. We've also emphasized this professional development aspect of the students. So in fact, this past year, we rolled out a 0 credit professional development course that every student in the college has to take every semester to graduate. Right. So this is also very important, I feel, as we think about the future workforce that our students will be going into. With an AI-enabled workplace that they are going into, they also have to be critical thinkers, they have to be lifetime learners, they have to be great communicators, and they have to see the big picture in which they are, let's say, whatever fits in, right? So keep that in mind as they go through school, and I think we prepare them well, and you see excellent outcomes as a result. They're very well placed. We had 100% placement for the past couple of years, right?
Wow.
So for the latest data that we have access to, and they have great, starting salaries, and just a good start. And
Hmm.
we also have, and I think that helps them. I mean, you see all the statistics from Miami, like you get a lot of leaders like you,
Yep.
right, in the profession that go out and do well because of the education that they receive. And
Yeah.
you had asked earlier about AI, and
Okay.
so one of the approaches that Miami is taking, just to speak even beyond the college, is that Miami is saying AI will be integrated into every departmental curriculum, based on whatever subject area they are in. So we are going through that process now at the university level itself. So other than just the BS in AI, there's also this opportunity for, let's say, a student in music or a student in
Mm.
fashion technology, that they are learning how AI tools might be used in their profession, and that they're having multiple touch points with this throughout their curriculum. So that is an initiative that MIME is working on as well.
Yeah, and incredibly important because as certainly listeners of this show and many more will know, is AI is something that's touching every job and every type of career, from early to late stage to across sectors and industries. And so
Yeah.
it to have that integrated, which again I think schools like Miami do an incredible job of putting that into whether you're going to be a teacher or whether you're doing something in healthcare or
Yes.
whatever that might be.
Yeah.
That said, I did want to ask about. I understand that Miami and your college have launched a Bachelor of Science in AI, which I believe has taken a really interesting approach around the systems and not just prompt engineering and those types of things. But
Yeah.
could you tell us a little bit about that? Because I think obviously we've talked about the quantum computing, which is obviously a frontier technology, but we are seeing more of these AI degree programs. And, I'm sure the Miami, one has a very Miami approach to it, which I'd love to learn more about.
Yeah, we in fact took a similar approach to AI that we did with quantum computing, in that we developed it as an AI plus an application area X.
Hmm.
So there is the technical core, of course, where they're doing all the specialized courses in AI, generative AI, machine learning, etc., etc. Of course, they start with the fundamentals, and
Hmm.
then they have application areas. Right now, some of the application areas are in philosophy. There
Okay.
is an application area in education, like you said, K-12 education. That is, that is of interest, in cybersecurity, in statistics. So we started with some of these application areas, and we've invited, in fact, every department on campus to opt into that application area
Hmm.
if they wanted their students to get that depth, right? Not everybody wants to be I would say, an AI developer. But if
Hmm.
they do and they want it applied to their profession, then this would be a great track, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, and it's interesting that you mentioned that ethical side, because that's something that I
Yes.
think we have seen. We get to do a lot in AI, from with partnering with our government folk, government partners, to we've hosted AI roundtables across the state with senior enterprise technology leaders. We do AI summits and all sorts of things. And
Yeah.
a lot of times the conversation comes down to what is the Ohio role, the Ohio opportunity, because there's a handful of companies and entities that are really developing the models, and the rest of us are discovering what they are going to do in a
Yeah.
week or two, right? And so,
Yeah.
but as we think about that, that the phrase and notion of responsible AI, and you can define that in different ways, but really comes down to ethical, making it work for us, integrating
Yes.
it into sectors and industries that we excel at. So
Yes.
healthcare, financial services, insurance. And so it's fascinating that has become and in a great way, a pillar of how you're thinking about these AI programs. But how do you approach that? Both within the college, but then you mentioned university wide, that does become an important aspect, because I think that's really, if we don't figure out that ethical side to it and don't come at it from that perspective, that could be a tough place for us all to live and work and operate in.
I agree, Chris. So that is something that we put front and center. In fact, when I was having a conversation with our chair of computer science, I said, why not, maybe that is how we Miamify it, meaning focus on the ethics part equally as the technical content, right? Like make it equally important. And I know lots of our faculty are extremely passionate about that. Because they do worry about how some of these tools might be used. And same thing with our students, right? They are equally concerned about, because they will be the ones living with this technology for a longer time than, let's say, me, right? So they do worry about it, and they do want to use it for good. And so we always emphasize that. And I think having that pillar of philosophy as one of our application areas, that was extremely important for us. So I'm so glad that we did that, and that our philosophy department was equal partners with us.
Well, that's fantastic.
Yes, exactly.
The Miami, the Miamification of it.
Yes,
and I think as an example in our world, we were in a session with some other statewide groups and with government leaders, and talking about, hey, what is that Ohio? And this was a couple of years ago. So we see how rapidly these things develop and change and evolve. And we were all getting all ginned up and excited about, okay, well, we'll become the best prompt engineers in the world. And then we had an AI expert, show this presentation of, well, actually, there's technologies where you won't maybe need to prompt engineer, in these next iterations, and it can just read what we're thinking out of our brains via sensors. It's like, oh, well, we don't need to do prompt engineering, and we certainly shouldn't be maybe building our education systems to become the best prompt engineers, and as we think about 10 or 15 or 20 years down the line, because we don't know. But to your point, and Miami's emphasis, that ethical side of thinking, the systems as opposed to some of those individual tactics. And so again, just incredibly interesting and fascinating. You mentioned some of the, your philosophy colleagues, I believe, playing a big role in that, which is really interesting.
Yes, exactly. And I also want to, I guess, emphasize that the BS in AI is actually doing some of the back-end development of this machine learning models and algorithms, right, that feed into the AI tools that we will be using. So they will not be prompt engineers ever, because I think there's some misunderstanding, especially when young people look at a BS in AI, they think that's it. That's not what it is. It is actually to do the back-end development of some of the AI tools that they're going to be using, right? And I think that's important for them to know.
Absolutely. And that's, as we talk to businesses across the state, from, hyper growth startup scalers to, some of the, big name brands that we know, or some of the big tech companies, building that's an area that there is a lot of need in. So I presume a lot of the students are going to continue to find a lot of success as they, choose to enroll in Miami and choose to do things like the quantum and the AI degree programs. But really enjoying this conversation. Want to take us to kind of our second segment here, where we ask all of our guests a few questions to kind of get different perspectives and connect the dots between what's going on. So the first one that we'd love to ask, and we've been talking about a bunch of it, but is what's a problem that you're currently working to solve? And so it can be something big, something small. You could say, hey, we're looking for more Cleveland clinics, where we want more industry partners, and we're trying to build that out. But what's a challenge that you and the team are currently working to solve? And again, a quantum workforce is a big one, so you can always go back to that.
I think one of the things that we are definitely looking to solve. Like, and it's like you said, Chris, we are always looking for industry partners, right? So
Mhm.
we welcome the opportunity to work with any entity that wants to build up Ohio as the next Silicon Valley or whatever, or a manufacturing. I mean, we are
Mhm.
already a manufacturing hub, right? So I would say we welcome that opportunity. That's definitely something that we're working on every day, and I have great partners in that effort. The other one is also changing the narrative. And I think even as we were talking to some of the state officials, right? There is a narrative that we don't have the skilled workforce here in
Mm.
Ohio. And I think we need to change that narrative. We do have, I mean, we have fantastic universities in Ohio. We have the skilled workforce. So there's been sort of, and I think changing that narrative, especially with Ohio X's help and your help, I think that is important, that we do have this highly trained workforce that loves the education they received in Ohio and want to stay in Ohio. So how do we keep them here? And and seeing that this is a state that embraces some of these high tech fields and professions, and that we have the talent, and so we want you to stay here. So I
Yeah.
think working on that is very helpful. I would say the other one is that pipeline, like you mentioned, right? Getting our young people excited about some of these fields. I think that is still an ongoing work, and I've been working on this for 30 years, and I
Mhm.
would say that will continue, because I do think it's very important for us to get more young people interested in the profession. We want it to be a welcoming environment to any student who wants to learn some of these technologies, new degree programs. And so and to tell them that they don't have to be a whiz kid in math or science to be successful. Anyone with an interest and the ability to work hard can succeed, right? So I think that's the message I'd like to get across as well too.
And I think again, kudos to Miami and the Cleveland Clinic, because it's one of those things where our state is quite unique, especially for our population size. And
Yes.
most states our size, population, numbers. It's an Atlanta and a Georgia where you have one big city, one big, business industry innovation center, Chicago, Illinois, for instance. But we have three: Cleveland, Columbus,
Yes.
Cincinnati, three big
Yeah.
metros plus Toledo, Dayton, Akron, Canton, Youngstown. And so that, while a strength, right? And we love the Guardians versus the
Yes.
Reds, and the Bengals and the Browns, and
Yes.
the Red Hawks versus the Bobcats, and all of that. But it
Yes.
it does sometimes make it difficult to paint or share some of these statewide successes, because it can be sometimes thought of as a regional program or a regional success. But again, a real kudos, and I applaud and love what the clinic is doing, going to Oxford, and what Miami is doing, going to Cleveland, and building that pipeline that shows, institutions 4 hours apart are going deep together. And that is for the good, to this point, of the good of Ohio, and really
Yes.
helping us capture some of these frontier technology opportunities. So again, I know I have, but I just wanted to applaud it again, because I think those are those things that are rare but are changing, and we're starting to see more of that with leadership like Miami. So again, I just want to applaud that for
Thank
maybe
you.
one final time.
Yeah.
So third one for us, our third of four for the rapid fire. But say someone's coming to visit Oxford, a student, maybe you're recruiting a new researcher, a new professor, a new industry partner. Where would you take them for a meal or a coffee, or to just show off the beauty of Miami University?
Yeah, there's so many options right now. In fact, I don't know if you've been lately to Oxford. So
Mhm.
there've been some new places that have opened up as well. I know we always go to the Pickle and Pig, and we've all sad to see our some of our old this things shut down, right? But we do have some new
Mhm.
places opening up. This really nice Mediterranean place that has opened up lately, Tabo. So that their food is pretty good. So I would say
Okay.
there is a diversity of I guess cuisines that is happening here in Oxford, similar to this region. I think there's just a breadth of things that are coming through. But Pickle and Pig is always a nicer place that we take people to,
Sure.
right? And then if they want something more casual, there are lots of options here.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
And at the very least, grab a coffee uptown, take a walk down Slant
yes,
Walk, and loop
exactly.
around a very beautiful campus. So
Yes.
no shortage of Oxford options. But
No.
final one,
Yeah.
how are you spending a perfect Saturday? What does that look like? Obviously, you have a very busy day job and there's a lot going
Yeah.
on. But how do you spend that Saturday where Miami isn't the focus, let's say?
Yeah, oh my gosh, I love Ohio. I just love the parks that we have. So I love to hike. I'm discovering all the great parks that we have, whether it be state or, Cincinnati region parks. So that's what I'm doing. I might be at the Cincinnati Nature Center, or I might be at Sharon Woods, or in our backyard we have Kena Park. And then Houston Woods is right here. So any one of those, yeah.
A lot of great options, and
Yes.
we noticed the theme that the parks and the outdoors,
Yeah.
we're shifting fully into spring, into summer,
Exactly.
and people are back outside. But
Yeah.
Beena, I've really enjoyed this conversation, as I always do. Thank you so much for joining us, getting to share a little bit of the Miami work and what's happening at the College of Engineering and Computing, and all that's happening in Oxford. And so just thank you. Thanks for everything that you are doing. Thanks for everything that all our friends on Miami's campus are doing. Any final thoughts that you want to leave us with? We'll put in the show notes ways to follow and connect with you on LinkedIn and the college's website and some of the AI and quantum programs. But anything you want to leave us with?
No, I would just say, those would be great ways to find us. And please come and visit us. I think that's the best way to see Miami, fall in love with Miami, and also study at Miami. So please, come and visit us.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. So
yes.
To again, Beena, all our Miami friends, thank you so much. Thanks for the partnership. Thanks for everything you do. Everyone listening and watching, hopefully enjoyed this conversation, getting to learn a little bit more of what's happening in Oxford, Ohio at Miami University. And again, as an alum, my last shameless plug, if you haven't been to campus, maybe you have a student in middle school or high school considering, take the drive over to Oxford. It's absolutely incredible place, and couldn't recommend it enough. But Beena, thank you so much. Thank you for joining. Everyone listening and watching, thanks again. We'll talk to y'all soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Chris.